So it's not so much that you were a saint from the minute that you were born. Otherwise, we would never have people like St. Augustine. But it's that so to be named a saint, the process usually will start with the church gives like a 5-year window. Let's say a person dies, they wait 5 years more for emotions to calm down, for people to actually reflect on the life of the person, and then the process of canonization can be opened.
Right.
There are some exceptions to that rule, which have been Lucia, who was one of the girls who saw Our Lady of Fatima. St. John Paul II, and Mother Teresa. So all of them, the popes actually gave an exception for the 5-year window. And I remember when I saw videos of John Paul II and Mother Teresa, you would see that upon their death, there was something that they would chant. It's almost like sainthood now.
Right.
The people were so loved by the Christians within the church that the Pope just thought it was quite evident that these people led a saintly life. And so the Pope at that time then created an exception for these 3 saints, and their process actually started less than 5 years before. So the rest of us, probably that's not going to happen. People are not going to be chanting, being a saint now. So 5 years have elapsed, and then now what happens is the cause of canonization is opened, and it starts within a local process, right? Yes, there has to be something brought forth so that the person can be considered to have been a saint. And usually it is much easier if a person is within a certain organization or a certain part of the church, because then somebody can do it on their behalf.
Right.
Or it could be maybe if the person lived in a very strong Catholic family, then the family can create a sort of mandate to be able to say, we would like this person to be canonized. But many times the person is attached to a certain thing within the church, maybe a religious order or a community, or it could even be a Jumuiya that can come and say, we would like this person to be canonized. Or it could be that the person is maybe in a certain parish and is known within that parish, or the family is known within that parish. Then within that realm, then that case is presented to the local bishop. So once the request is made, then the local bishop will come up with a team that will be able to assess that the person actually lived virtue to a heroic degree. And then once that is actually confirmed, then the person is given the title of servant of God. Yes, so once the church will respect the local system, the local hierarchy. So once the bishop is able to assess the life and the writings and does all the interviews locally, then the person is given, the local bishop is the one who gives a mandate to call the person servant of God. Like right now we have Cardinal Tunga, who's a servant of God. So then after this process is done, then it moves to an international level, and it goes now to Rome, to the Congregation for the Cause of Saints. Now, within this stage is now when they determine whether the person will move to a venerable state. So now the guys in Rome will now come together and assess everything that was done by the local bishop and the local state, and now give their stamp of approval that indeed this person lived a heroic life. And this is heroic virtue. Basically, a person needs to be able to show that they lived virtue not to just a normal degree, but to a heroic degree. And that it was consistent throughout their life. Well, it could be that, you lived, there are some years of your life where it was we don't want to look at that story, but we'll have to look at that story. But then that once the person decided to convert, then the person was able to struggle over and over again to grow in virtue. So it's not so much that you were a saint from the minute that you were born. Otherwise, we would never have people like St. Augustine. But it's that once one begins to live their Christian life, there is a show of progression to grow in virtues. We're not expected to be perfect because we are human, but that we are able to begin again is where our heroicness comes about. Not so much in extraordinary things, but in doing ordinary things to a very high degree. So it's called the Congregation for the Cause of Saints. Yeah, so it's a team. I think it's a team that's just dedicated to doing this, I think. Or maybe they pull in people to be able to do it. Then one becomes a blessed. So that's the next step. We assess whether this person can now have their beatification done. Yeah,
that
bit
is
like
step number 3.
That's step number 3.
Beatification.
You're right. So we already have seen the heroic virtue of this person's life. The person is now being is open to the church using them for prayer. But now what the church requests is that just to be able to confirm that this person is actually in heaven, a miracle is expected through the intercession, solely through the intercession of this person. And I remember for John Paul II, remember he had not even done the 5 years, and then he got beatified because there was a French nun who had Parkinson's disease who got cured from her ailment. And so that was a miracle that was attributable specifically to John Paul II, because she was praying only to John Paul II. Right. And so that miracle then shows that indeed this person is in heaven, and so we are able to show some proof that this miracle has happened outside any scientific reasoning, right? And usually the miracle needs to be instantaneous, it needs to be lasting, and it needs to be outside anything that science can explain. And usually within this beatification process, in order for the person to be called blessed, there's actually a scientific, a group of scientists who are brought together, people in the medical space and all that, to show that there is no way in which science can explain how this miracle has happened. Many times these miracles are medical miracles because those are the easiest to sort of see clearly. Right. And also I think because God knows that we are such creatures of reason, it has to be something that supersedes reason, and science is the easiest thing to debunk. So to say that, okay, this person had Parkinson's, it's impossible that they were cured from Parkinson's instantaneously and without any remnants of the disease present. Then even the scientists themselves, many times, by the way, who are not even Catholic, will be interviewed to be able to prove that is this something that the church is sort of like bringing together, or you as a scientist who probably doesn't even have the faith, do you also agree with the mandate that has been given that this is humanly impossible, right? And so when that miracle is given, then and the church approves it through this whole process of beatification, then the person is called a blessed.
A blessed.
Okay. Like we have Blessed Irene Nyadha.
Nyadha, exactly.
Yeah. And actually, now the church has been trying to make the beatification processes not so much happen in Rome, but happen in the home country, so that the people can be able to have more devotion to that saint, and to be able to see that, this person came from our land, ate what we ate, sort of faced the same hardships that we did, and was able to live a heroic life. So I like that change that the church has done, that now the processes no longer happen in Rome, but happen in the home city where the person was. So it's almost like the first stage of becoming a blessed, in that as much as the person is already considered to live a heroic life, has already shown one miracle, but the church actually asks for a second miracle, just as a confirmation. And I think this is just more for the rigorous aspect of being able to say, okay, if we're actually going to confirm that the person is in heaven, we would like, it's not too much, I would say, okay, this is now my layman's way of saying it, it's not too much to ask for a second miracle. And like for John Paul II, there was a lady in Costa Rica who had a brain ailment, and she was cured of that ailment, and so that became the second miracle that led to John Paul II's canonization. So with this process, then the person, once the church confirms this, the candidate now then becomes a saint. The person is now raised to the altars.